Danny, I'm going to welcome you onto the No Ordinary Man podcast. From my point of view, from Shane and from Josh, it's unbelievable to get you on. Just, I think from the direction your story has gone is massive, and it's going to be of a massive inspiration to everyone. Like from joining Aston Villa at 15 years of age, crazy. I can only imagine as a kid playing professional football in England is all you ever wanted to do. And then to have to move to, you went over to Colorado Rapids and you're playing against David Beckham. That's insane. It's just for us, it's a massive to have you on the podcast. Thanks a million.
Thanks for having me, lads. Anytime we can shed light on. I don't ever think, you said it's inspirational. I don't think that at all. I'm just living my life day to day. But anytime anyone can pick up something anywhere along the way, it's amazing to kind of shed that light and give a bit of information. I suppose it's good to give information to people that don't have it, Yeah,
I also think as well, just to add on to what Basil was saying, I mean, what I think is really unique about your story, Danny, is how the football at an early age, that was the goal and you wholeheartedly pursued that, and it took you, on what an adventure. But then coming back to Ireland, to your hometown of Wicklow, and for the listeners, that's where we are now. But also then following what's in front of you there in terms of the, working with Marvel and all these big names, and pursuing your art. Yeah. So I just think it's phenomenal how you've gone after something, you've achieved it twice, and the pinnacle. And I just think, as Basil was saying, there's so many kind of learnings that I think from your story that our listeners are going to benefit from. But I think, what we usually start with as our guest is just for the guests to kind of paint the early years, the formative years. Yeah. Because I think you're unique, as Basil said, 15, taking the decision to go across. But maybe we start at the beginning in terms of just paint that picture of what your childhood was like. And
my childhood was football. That was it. Yeah. Art didn't really... I suppose I'll go into art, but it was literally just football. Me and Shane were best mates growing up. There was nothing that interested me.
Just showing that you're a cordial
already. But no, nothing existed in my world other than football. I genuinely mean it. I couldn't have cared less for anything other than football. I used to sit in the classroom. I wasn't terrible in school, but I never applied myself really. Do you know what I mean? I just thought, right, when's break? When's lunch? When can I play? Dribble the ball to school, from school. So when I say kind of if you look at it now and say someone was successful or something, it's an obsession that they have, right? But you wouldn't call it that as a kid. It was just all I ever thought about. And my granddad was big in County Wicklow in football, like the awards nights are called the Tommy Earls Awards after him. So football runs through our family. Yeah. My older brothers played it. Yeah. That's a bit of a thing as well, I think, with friends and family. Everyone was always playing football in my house somewhere on the way. So it was a thing. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't when you have kind of like single kids in the house. Should I play football? It was just everyone was playing, so we always just done that. And I think I'm very fortunate, and I suppose everyone in this room, we're all very fortunate that screens weren't around as much. When you look back at it now and you analyse that, not that screens are absolutely terrible, but there was no other choice. When you played football, I come in and what did you do when you come inside? Watch Heartbeat with me dad. No, I'd rather play football. I don't mind watching it now with me dad, but I'd rather play football, So so that was kind of formative years, like you're saying. It was honing a skill, I suppose, but without knowing it. Because all I tried to do was just be the best I could ever be. But I wasn't as in, I'm going to be better than him. It was just how good I wanted to be. Yeah. If I couldn't do something, I'd practice it and practice it and practice it until I was blue in the face, until I could do it, and then try something else, you know what I mean? So I suppose that was instilling skills in me that have kind of kept with me over the years without knowing it, I suppose,
Well, from that point of view, even, and it's down, the one thing that shines for me there, and obviously even talking before we went on air, is how driven you are. Do you know what I mean? And I know from my journey with sport and other different things, and Josh's journey with business, is that I don't think perfection is ever attained. Yeah. But it's the drive for it. And that's addictive in its own sense, and it's that little clip on the shoulder, when you like doing the Johan Cruyff turning around and you're practicing it for ages. Next thing you skin a lad on a football pitch on a Sunday. Exactly. It's that little boost of confidence.
Yeah, it's the payoff, isn't it? You learn something and you do it. I suppose one of those things you realise training works. I only realised that recently, actually, kind of how much if you apply yourself when you're a kid, like I said, you want to learn something, it just kind of happens naturally on the pitch. Football happened naturally enough for me where art didn't. You know what I mean? So we can kind of go into that. But football, I always felt I was decent and I could play. anytime I tried to learn a new trick or something, I could pick it up quite, not easily, but easier, I suppose, than other people maybe, you know. So, but it was the thrill of doing it in a match then. Like you said, do a Cruyff turn, think, I done that worked, so you can do it again, you know. But being driven, it was like, there wasn't really any other kind of thought. So, you know, when people talk about positivity and kind of visualization and stuff, it's quite funny. It's actually funny. I used to go to bed at night time and visualise putting on a Barcelona kit. Eventually, that's the same colour as an Aston Villa kit, right? I made Aston Villa, not Barcelona. But it's like, but those kind of things. There was not. I never kind of thought to myself, going to bed at night, I won't make it as a footballer. It was just, I can't wait to make it. When am I going to get there? When am I going to go over it? And that wasn't an arrogant thing. It was just I didn't know. I was too young and naive to know anything else, other than to just, I can't wait to make it as a footballer.
But that was your dream, and you established that. But obviously, like who did you football with? There's two clubs in the town. Who did you play with?
Wicklow Rovers, yeah. My dad is like a Wicklow Rovers man his whole life, so he didn't coach me. Ended up coaching all my brothers, all the way up. So it was good for me as well. Like I got to train, say Wednesday night with my team, then train with my dad's team, then I could train with my older brother's team. So there's always football going on around the roads. There was lads playing. I played with Rovers at the start, and then I went to Joe's under 12s. That was kind of the next big one. So you always have these little goals set out, and you want to. I was always decent enough at seeing something and thinking, right, that's me whole life, I got to focus on that. So when I was under 11s, right, next year, my dad said Joe's would be the next step, and that was all I thought about. And then you get to Joe's, and what's the next step? It's Ireland. So from here, I went up to Joe's and played for 4 years, and that was a DDSL. So you're thinking, if you can play well there, you have a good chance of getting away, you know. So once you get to 12 or so, then you start realising, okay, this is actually something you have to start consciously thinking about. You know?
Did you play other sport up till about that, or did you
Gaelic really, Basil, not really other than that. I was decent enough at Gab, but I didn't care less. But it was actually funny though. One of our friends, Kieran Doyle, Brian was his dad, right? And it always got to a stage. Did you? Yeah. It was one of those things like football was only I cared about. Like Gaelic, I played because all the lads were playing. It was a bit of a pastime for me, you know. And he sat over there because Gaelic and like soccer clash training sometimes. He's like, right, if anyone's here, do you want to play soccer? Get up and leave now, thinking everyone kind of scared. And I was like, I didn't even think it was a question. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm playing soccer, lads. That's it. I'm out. Brian's like, oh, no, come back. So it was one of those things, like I said, football was only it for me. I love GA now, and I probably like it to watch even more now than football. You know, growing up, it was only ever football for me, you know.
Like listening to you there, and I think there's a common theme, like because we talk with Fergus and other guests as well about the visualization part of it. So, for example, if somebody who is visualizing to, I suppose, go down the path that you did and aspires to be the professional footballer, go to the UK or Europe, like family environment, living and breathing it, but from a structure point of view, from a parent, let's say, and giving every opportunity to the child. Looking back on that time, do you think, let's say a parent listening into this podcast, what would you say at how your journey and what I suppose learnings you could pass on to them?
The best thing, like I mean, my mum and dad were the best in the world to me. I had to train Dublin twice a week and play on the weekend. So
sure,
you know what I mean. I have 5 brothers and sisters. They do sports, so they didn't even make it a thing for me. They just drove me. So I appreciate that so much now. You know what I mean? I tell them that it's like, Jesus, I do appreciate that. But as far as me, my dad's like a big foot. He knows everything about football. Do you know what I mean? Everything I learned from him, but never, ever, ever taught about football to me. Ever. We get in the car, we go play, and usually he'd play well, right? But if he didn't, he'd say, "How do you think you done?" And I'd say, this. He says, "All right." Like never sat down. Do you hear people now? You drill him. You could have done this better. Yeah. Never. I suppose he probably knew as well how hard I was on myself. You know what I mean? If I let up the gas a little bit, he'd probably put his foot down a little bit more. Just let me play. Just let me enjoy it. I think even up until 15, 16, kids have to still enjoy it. There is a fine line, right? If a kid's good, he has to have a little bit of a boost maybe. Sure. But I kind of innately had it in me. Like I said, maybe my dad didn't need to do that, but there was never pressure ever. It was just, are you enjoying it? That's all that matters about it.
I think that's a massive thing to say, because I would have had a flip of that, I suppose. I was getting to All-Ireland finals every year in boxing. But my parents only came to one fight a year.
Really, yeah.
That was the All-Ireland final. And
right.
I shit the bucket the minute to turn up to the stadium. It drive me wrong. Like.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? It just was that. It was the new pressure that I wasn't able for.
Right, yeah.
I cruised Leinster Championships, and then days of turn up to All-Ireland final, and I'd be like, oh no.
There is something to that though, yeah, when you see someone in the crowd that you you appreciate and you love. You think, oh, I got to do a bit more here. But my dad was always there, so it was never. Yeah, it never was. There was. I remember one time I played left back sometimes, and he'd stand on this side of the pitch, left back, and I asked him not to one time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because he'd follow. Next half he'd go over that side. It wasn't a bad thing, but it was just, Dad, just let us breathe a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But it was, like I said,
that sounds like a brilliant relationship.
Oh, Jesus, it was.
And for him to be able to step back and say, you know what, I'm actually taking away from Danny here. He's right.
Absolutely. Yeah, he, like I said, he knew what it meant to me, but I wouldn't be anyway. Jeez, I wouldn't have a football career without my dad. No chance. And my older brother was unbelievable to me as well. He knew as well. Stephen would have wanted to be a footballer, but he kind of put his not dreams into me because he didn't put pressure, but he knew I had a good chance. Yeah. And I remember one conversation we had. I was going to my dad's All-Ireland final. I think he was coaching one of my brothers, and on the way home he said, if you play football, I think I was about 12 or so, if you play football every night till you're 16, you'll make it. And something as simple as that for a child, you sometimes you can't speak to a 12-year-old and say you got to work on this because it goes over the head. Once he said that, I was like, that's it, golden. So you promise I'll make it. Obviously, I had a chance of making it anyway. But every night, it was like, obviously, you miss a few nights, but it was like, oh, that's all I have to do. So I'm golden. You know what I mean? So those little things where you can make things simpler for kids and not, now everything's about goals and manifest, and sometimes just play every night, you're good. Do you know what I mean?
Have a bit of crack,
have a bit of fun. Yeah, that's what it is.
Would you have had any... So obviously you went to Joy's at a young age. You were up at Joy's at 12, were you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 12, yeah.
So who would have been your mentors, like, as in... Because like your dad obviously is a massive one. Your brother now is obviously a massive one as well. But like, so coaches in the town are
in the town, it wouldn't have been so much, to be fair, because we were just younger. The coaches, I would say, Brian Reid was my coach in the town. Like, Brian was great, but you know what I mean, Brian's not a football man. My dad would have just come to me games and told me how I was doing and that, you know. But in Dublin, Kieran and Liam Forsyth, two lads from Sallynoggin, Joe was true and true. You know what I mean? I signed at that club right at the cusp of them building the new clubhouse. And it's quite weird when things happen. The better stuff you get, the different people it brings in, it lost a bit of its identity when that new clubhouse came in. Like, what would you say? More middle class people come into the club, I suppose. Where I came up and it was just young lads fighting for a chance. And it sounds a bit romantic, but it was like that. So they still had that. Kieran and Liam had that where like you got to fight for everything. You know, they were amazing to me. They were. Kieran just came down last year. Actually, we still kind of have a good relationship with him. My dad would be really good friends with them. But they were amazing, and they were hard as nails. Like, you know what I mean? They give you the arm around the shoulder, but they were hard as nails. You know,
the Joys was hard. We talked about it in my podcast. My best friend was the best soccer player in Gorey, bar none, right? And we went up for, I suppose, the art trials. Really, we went up to Joy's with John Burke. The year we were only chaps anyway, and at the time, Colm had £5 in his pocket, and it was an old dressing room, and it was hung on a hook anyway, and we came out, and the manager thought Colm was unbelievable, wanted him straight away. Right. And Colm went in getting dressed and the fiver was gone out of his pocket. What he didn't say to the manager about St. Joseph's, but yeah, we didn't end up signing for Joy's anyway. But my nephew was mad. My nephew played for Joy's for 4 or 5 years. Paul Murphy, so he was up there for a long time. So.
Yeah, it's always a thing. You have to cut your teeth against the Dubs as well, don't you? Like, coming from Wicklow, it's like it's a bit of a... They're not as welcome as people would think. So, oh, you're from Wicklow, they're a culture essentially. You know what I mean? That's what you're calling you. So you think, no, I'll show you. And you like, it's a real thing where it's like every day was like, every time was like a World Cup final for me that first year. It was like, I have to show I'm the best player on this pitch every time I show up.
And when you stepped up to Joy's, did you notice the difference in quality? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been quite lucky, I suppose, in my football career where I'd be the type of player where if the standard's decent, I could blend in with the standard. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't necessarily flashy anyway, but I could always think quickly. So I could always kind of play quickly with however high the standard got, even with Villa's first team. You wouldn't be standout and taking players on, but you could always hold your own. You know what I mean? But I did notice the standard was a lot quicker in that year. And then just, do you know what it is? More clever. Do you know when you talk about street smarts and stuff on a football pitch now? Like, young lads from Dublin are like that. Do you know what I mean? There's little things that they do. You think, oh, you can pick up your game. Like, little, even holding your jersey to get away from your half. Yeah, it's those little tiny things that you start realising. You think, oh, this is what... It's about being a smart footballer sometimes, you know what I mean? That's what the big thing I learned going up there was. But it was tough. It was still when the league was tough, but it was great. It builds you, you know, yeah, definitely.
So, like, going up to the decision to move across the water, like, you started off local family structure, playing football, enjoying it. You progressed on in terms of more to a full, more structured training environment, but then kind of getting to a point where you were moving across the water. What if you could? Like, I'd be really interested to paint a picture, and you sort of did a bit of painting a picture of how your training regime and the dedication and mindset was leading up to that. Because again, you're what, 15?
Yeah.
You know? So like,
yeah, I suppose. See, like I said, Shane will attest to this. Like, I was so obsessed, I didn't really need to change much here.
Yeah.
I lived and breathed it. When you're 15, you can get away with eating you want anyway. I never drank, never went out. That never interested me. It wasn't a kind of a conscious decision. Like, mates, not anyway, group friends, they were good lads anyway. They weren't trying to go mad, you know. So, one thing I suppose I could say, if you're talking contact kids, it was like peer pressure never got to me. Like, someone would say, take that, and I'd be like, no, but I wouldn't care less if they talked about me for a month. It wouldn't even bother me. So I'd be like, I'd just be like, so I'm playing on Saturday. Why would I do that? You know what I mean? It just kind of, football always overruled everything, but I had that bit of a backbone. My dad instilled that into me. You know, he says, don't be afraid to ever say no if you don't want to do something. Do you know what I mean? And it's a tough thing those first few times, but when you do it the first few times, my God, it becomes easier. It's just
they stop asking it then,
it's like we talked about before the podcast. Yeah, exactly. So, but the training regime, no, Josh, it was just me being obsessed with football. It wasn't anything different. I just couldn't wait to get over to England to take it up a step even further. Be like, what did these lads do to become even more professional? Do you know what I mean? That did at the back end of my career hinder me, actually, quite funnily enough. We could probably get into that, but like, when you lose a bit of form, you start overthinking everything.
Okay.
And off the pitch, you do, I gotta be in bed by 9, I have to have something to help me sleep, and everything's perfect. But then on the pitch, right? So everything's perfect. You make sure you can control the controllables off the pitch. But then on the pitch, I wasn't flair anymore. I didn't take chances. I was just playing safe, and it affected me. So my off-field professionalism affected my on-field creativity, if that makes sense. It was a real weird one to battle with. That was,
Just even to step back a bit, right? So how did the switch up to Aston Villa, how did that come about? Because that's the dream for any 14-year-old listening to this, a footballer. How do I get there? How do I get that to happen?
The kind of goals were laid out, the path was laid out. The goal is go from Wicklow Rovers to a Dublin team, DDSL, and then once you get to the Dublin, it's pretty much in your hands because the scouts at every game. That's always laid out to you, and the biggest thing you have to do then from playing in a Dublin team is playing in an underage Ireland team, so get picked for the 15s, 16s Ireland teams, that's where the scouts really come. So you'd always kind of be aware that there's scouts at pretty much every game in the DDSL, so you can, the kind of fate's in your hands. If you thought about it, it'd be too daunting, but you think, no, I'll play well here and I'll get away, and then you just go across every midterm, you go back and forth to different teams. I went to Cardiff, Sunderland, Villa, quite a few
had
more.
A massive Irish influence.
Sunderland was where I wanted to sign, actually. It ended up not working there, but for contracts and stuff, they didn't give young Irish lads 3 years. You only give them 2. You needed a bit more kind of stability in 3 to go over, But that's how it comes about. The scouts sees you, and then you go over on trials, and the trials are they're the funnest part, but they're the hardest part as well, because you're thrown into a hotel with a bunch of people from Australia. Oh my God, all over the world. And then you go in and train, kick lumps at each other, come back, you know what I mean? But again, I always had this thing growing up. It's like anytime there's an organised football, no one could just, when you're playing with your mates and you're winning, if someone takes the ball and goes home, I just think, we get to play. No one could stop us playing here. No one could stop us. We have to play for 2 hours. So anytime there was like that, even in trials, I was like, we get to play football for 2 hours. This is amazing. I kind of never, I suppose, luckily enough, didn't think of how daunting it was. I just kind of loved playing football. Well,
your love of the game is unbelievable, and that comes through massively.
Of course.
It's just, you just saw pure enjoyment in it.
That's it. And obviously as you get older, you realise how big things are and the pressure it can get to you. But when you're young, try keep that love and fire as much as you can. That's the biggest thing. What are you doing it for then otherwise? You know what I mean?
Was there any hesitation from your parents, like very young, going across, where they just realised this is what you wanted to do? And
like my dad had me back with everything. I remember my mum saying once, "I have to think about this," and it wasn't even a go. It was like close the front room door, and I was like, "See you later, man. I'm going to play football." it was never even.
Okay, was that
no? There wasn't a conversation. Okay, I remember my mum leaving me in Villa, all right, in the driveway over there, but like, I wasn't thinking I'm homesick or anything like that. It was just get me out of here. But obviously, it's setting for me, man. I'm 16, moving away. At 15, you know.
You could picture us kicking the can of Coke down the airport.
That's it. Go and get to play in Villa. See you later, man. See you at Christmas. You know, in a nice way. But no, there was never that conversation, Josh. No, that was the goal. It was set out. As you get closer to it and stuff, you start have to speak with agents and stuff. So it's not just out of the blue. You have to start putting these plans in place anyway to kind of make sure you're okay to go and stuff. So, but no, the conversation never sat down.
Talk about that side of it though, because I think there's a practicality side to you going across or anybody going across the water, and because it is a business at the end of the day. So if you could share anything you can on that, I think that'd be really interesting.
You only realise when you get over it, it's a business. Do you know what? I talk about my love of football, and I don't love it as much anymore the way the game's gone, to be fair, with everything. But you do soon realise, like, in saying the way I'm coming here till I'm 16, I love football. Quickly into me moving to Villa, you realise the curtain gets pulled away a little bit. It's a bit of a Wizard of Oz thing, you know. You think, it's not as glamorous as you might have thought it was, you know. And I don't mean being famous, I just mean the football part of it. It's not as glamorous. You see first team players that are giving out and complaining. Even those things as a kid, you look at them and think, don't you love it? You're playing in the Premiership. But it's had to put money and these things start dripping in. You think, you got to be strong to figure those things out, you know. But everyone's kind of journey is different in it, I suppose. Sure. I mean, if you have a strong base and you're always in touch, the biggest thing I would say is if a kid moved away, be in touch with your family all the time. Yeah. Don't go and not call them. You don't have to know everything you're doing, but ring them every week. It's a simple thing because you can go and you leave 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you start to feel a little bit isolated, and you might be on top of the world, right? But then the second you get dropped or things go bad, you don't know how to figure that out. You don't have that kind of coping mechanism. Sure. And the family might think you're great, but they need to be involved the whole time.
So trying to keep a support network there that's aware of where you are.
That's it. Even your best friends. They don't
let you fall, bang.
Because it's not even their fault. When I wanted to leave Villa, what happened is one of our best mates, Rory Attlee, passed away. And that hit me later. I didn't know it didn't affect me as much until and a lot of things happened in the time, but I ended up leaving Villa. But when I told my mum and dad, I was like, I want to leave. I don't want to play football anymore. I was going to stop playing football. And that hit them like a train. They were like, where has this come from? We didn't even know. You were kind of like, I suppose, sad for 6 months. My brother always knew my older brother. It didn't hit him as hard, but he didn't think it would come to that much of an extreme. So it's always good to just touch base and check in with how you're feeling and how you're doing.
I think that's brilliant advice for anyone pursuing any sort of a goal. Is because I know you put your focus solely on that, and that's your goal, and that's your aim, and that's your why, and that's what you're driving to.
Yeah.
The next thing, the rug is pulled from under you, and if you haven't kept them in the loop of it, you're just hitting that bottom.
And then you feel really alone because they can't understand it a little bit sometimes. You know, like when my dad rings, how was the game? Yeah, played on Wednesday. Dad set one up, was captain, done this. Hang up the phone. He's flying. He's great, but he didn't know the night before. I didn't sleep a wink because I don't know what my next move's gonna be. Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to be an absolute open book, but you need to be keeping the loop on how you're feeling on things. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're that young as well.
Would you have had anyone in Villa when you got over there? Because I know there was Paul McGrath was there. I'd say that's probably right, for you though, is it?
He was, before me, Basil.
So would you have had any Irish, or would you have had anyone that not even particularly Irish? I'm just saying, but would you have had an older member of the squad maybe that had thrown the arm around you and looked after you?
There was Irish lads that were amazing. Stephen Henderson, he was unbelievable. He was one of my best mates over there. Steve O'Halloran, fella from Cork. They were around the same age as me. They were amazing. My roommate Mark Power was a year younger than me. We all got along at House on Fire. We all knew what we were all going through, but they weren't old enough to put their hand around me and say, hey, it's going to be all right. You know what I mean? So no, there wasn't that. And now, to be fair, my managers were unbelievable to me over there. Kevin McDonald and Tony McAndrew, the name was, they got a bit of stick. They ended up leaving the club for how it's come out now, kind of how they treated players badly. They were hard as nails, and I mean hard, like probably not, people would say not right for now. They were perfect for what I needed. They looked after me unbelievably well. Yeah, when I needed time, when Rory passed and stuff, they let me off home. They done everything. Do you know what I mean? It was like, they were great to me. So I was never out on my own. I was able to talk to people. Do you know what I mean? I suppose I was confident enough to tell people I wasn't feeling great. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the biggest thing for a kid is you have to feel like to be strong, and I can't say it to anybody. No, you're allowed. People will understand. Yeah. You know, they really will. You know,
that shows the bravery of your character as well, because I know I definitely wouldn't have been brave enough to voice how I felt through my youth, because everyone's looking at you. You're a boxer, you're a superstar soccer player. This lad's living the dream, but
Yeah,
you're
that's
fucking imploding inside at times.
like you. We talk about as people think. So even now, getting left from the outside in. Now, don't get me wrong. I am so lucky to have the life I've had. Like, do you know what I mean? But it's not as it seems on the outside. Do you know what I mean? There is times that are dark, but it's how you come through those times. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, can you be, I suppose, brave enough to tell the people that are closest to you? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be on.
But what I'm
Tell
thinking,
everyone, but-
what one of the messages I'm seeing, and like I said, and I'm being judgmental on myself maybe a little bit too, is that you had the strength and the bravery to say when you're struggling at times, you know what I mean? And I definitely didn't. And what happens then, I remember saying it to someone very recently, is if you can imagine having a cup or a bucket, and every time something shite happens, and shite's going to happen to all of us, like, right? But you're filling the bucket. But at some point, all those stones are going to fill up and the bucket's going to flow over. Like, do you know what
definitely.
I mean? So,
Definitely. I suppose looking back at it, my biggest thing was I never felt my identity attached to anything like with football, right? So when I was ready, when I left England, I was ready to be done with football, and I wasn't afraid of that. I wasn't afraid to say I'm not a footballer anymore. That's the biggest thing I think people struggle with. I was just like, nah, it doesn't kind of serve me anymore. It's not for me. It doesn't make me happy. It's not. Happy is a kind of broad term. I don't necessarily like using that word, but it doesn't fulfill what I want in my life anymore. And I was ready to step away from it, and I knew that. So it wasn't hanging on to football and then looking at these other voices that would have brought me down even more and kind of think I have to keep on hanging on to football. So I just thought, I'll find something else. You know what I mean? It was really like that. It was like, it wasn't that I didn't love it to bits and I'm not as passionate as ever, but I was like, I'm ready to step away. It's not what I wanted it to be anymore, you know? That's kind of the big one.
What age were you when you left Villa?
I was 19 when I left, yeah. So we kind of came to a mutual agreement at the club. We were like, listen, I'm ready to go. I left before my contract is up, and they were like, we're ready to kind of part ways, both ways. And
Who was the manager there?
Martin O'Neill.
And would you have talked to him about it? Or?
I talked to him. Martin would have been great with younger players, to be fair. He wouldn't have had that much. With players he was interested in, he would have. Yeah. Definitely looking to get in the first team. But with players that are on the outskirts, now it's a big job looking after a Premiership football team. I'm not expecting cups of teas around his house, you know, but that's just the way it was. That was life. But the reserve managers and that were unbelievable for me. They were his kind of right hand men anyway. They were looking at after people, you know, but had a good chat with them. And they all agreed, it was the right thing to do. I really was on the kind of cusp of it. I thought I was going to break in there. I was doing well at the start of the third year. It was right around when Rory had passed, and I came back and I actually didn't give a shite anymore. I really didn't. I was like, I don't care if I play well or bad. And what happens with that is the byproduct is you play the best football ever. And people think, why can't you keep that? Because it's a bad way to be, because the second you start losing your form, you still don't give a shite. That looks terrible. Do you know what I mean? So you try to bottle that feeling but make it a professional. It's hard to do that. And then I played really well in the pre-season. There was a League Cup game coming up, and I thought in my own head, no one kind of said it, that I might get a chance to sit on the first team for the bench, or the bench for the first team, you know. And there was not even Martin Hill didn't even look up or down at me. And that, stupidly enough, looking back, broke me. But at the time, it was all I was holding on to. I was like, this is all I have. I can do it for, not for anyone else but me, but I think, everyone will be buzzing at home if I do this. And I didn't get even a look in, and that broke me. And that was just something, that's what I mean by, like, you have to, it's a fine line between not caring, because something simple as that can break you, and you think, fuck, you never have to start again here, you know.
You did achieve at the club in terms of becoming captain of the reserve team.
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey from, kind of coming into the club and then achieving that height, because that was a huge.
Yeah, I suppose that was big. To be fair, I didn't think it at the time, but it is a nice achievement to be captain of a Premiership reserve team, you know. But I always had it about me, kind of like I enjoyed trying to kind of galvanise people. I wasn't ever selfish anyway, I suppose, in the way of playing more so than anything. Do you know what I mean?
But you were a leader of the club.
Yeah, I suppose more so in the change room with lads. I always had it in me anyway, kind of growing up even younger, and that if someone was struggling, I'd always try. And I don't mean like I was this good Samaritan, but in a football sense, I'd be like, mate, you're better than that. Pick your head up. Do you know what I mean? It was always that thing where, like, I was kind of always looked at. Felt like my performance would speak for themselves, so I could lend a hand a little bit.
Sure.
It might have been way different if I was always trying to like reach to perform at a certain level. I had to worry about myself, but I was always kind of decent enough where I could kind of do that. And then the manager seen that in me. But we had a great dressing room. Like, we had a real great dressing room over there. Jesus,
just to cut you off, because you're cutting yourself off there, right? But I said your story at the start was unbelievably inspiring, right? And you cut that off straight away, right? And now you're like, just, I don't think, I can't wait for you to listen back to the podcast, because I don't think you realise your strength.
Absolutely.
Like, to be able to pick someone else up when they're falling is an unbelievable skill. Do you know what I mean? And you're seeing people, and to have the wherewithal, right? Not to be like, because it is, and professional sport and professional football in particular, it is a very selfish game, like, right? But you still had the wherewithal to have a look around and said, you know what, Josh is struggling there. He is better than that, but there's something up. Throw the hand over him, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I don't do well with compliments. That's probably why I cut myself off. But with I've been a captain at most clubs I've played at, and that's probably why I liked it.
Was I, right? But mine was because I generally would get sent off if I wasn't. So they used to say, right, put Basil as captain because he might stay on the pitch.
Yeah, I suppose looking back, if you kind of probably to analyse that, that's why I enjoy team sports, because it's more than the individual. Obviously, you get players like Ronaldo and all, but like I said, I was never a superstar. So if you could make people around you better and stuff, but make them feel better about themselves, it was always, I don't know, maybe it's how you're raised. I haven't looked into that enough, I haven't analysed that enough, what you just said there. I haven't even thought about it probably, but I just enjoy kind of helping people through getting better, I suppose, and figuring themselves out a little bit. Like, do you know what I mean? When you're in America.
Well, genuinely, again, I can't wait for you to listen back, because you're there. The first thing you done there was hit yourself a kick in the bollocks before you said that, right? You're after saying, I was never a superstar. Like, what you've done for people in that little sentence that you just talked about, to me, right, as a human, as someone that's here listening to you, like, to do that, to have the skill to notice when someone is dropping off, to notice when someone's not in a good place,
of course,
that makes you a far bigger superstar, in my opinion, than
winning
the Ballon d'Or. Do you know what I mean? That's a better trait, like, do you know what I mean? And
I think it's looked over a little bit more these days, massively. Even when I went to America, it was, say you get someone like Jordan Henderson, right? He is like invaluable to Liverpool Football Club, right? They're doing well without him, don't get me wrong, but like, he galvanises that team together. Whatever Klopp says, he backs up, right? But he's not a superstar. He doesn't score goals from 50 yards, right? But when you go to America, it's more kind of, it probably is more selfish over there in that respect, where people want to have these highlight reels and stuff, right? And then managers don't appreciate it. Yeah, in England, managers can appreciate the Jordan Hendersons of the world, and they think, I'll play him. He's my man. I back him. You know what I mean? In America, it goes by the wayside. It's like you could. So in America, all the time, we used to live in the same kind of complex, and lads were dropped, and you're always kind of trying to plug holes. Manager, I'll talk to the gaffer for you, and gaffer talks to me, and they'd knock on my door, say I'm not playing, but you picked him up and stuff. But like, the gaffer wouldn't say that. No, I'd never say it, because you don't need to say it. But they'd never appreciate it. They could understand it's going on, but they didn't appreciate it. They were like, he's not playing, he's better. It was real superficial kind of, do you know what I mean? Where like, sometimes the player and the person needs to be looked after more than the player. Who gives a shite at the end of the day about football, realistically, if he's struggling? I couldn't care less if we win at the weekend if your man's struggling, do you know what I mean? It'd end up inevitably coming down to playing football and getting results, but you have to be a human at the start of everything.
Yeah, but that comes out, that shines massively, and I don't think you're aware of it, but you have that superstar natural trait to look after people, like, and that's an amazing thing to have. But to back up, right? Yeah. How did you get from Aston Villa to Colorado Rapids?
That's actually a mad story. Steve, do you know Steve Guppy? You might not know him. He played for Leicester. You know Steve? Leicester, he played for Leicester. He played for Martin O'Neill. When I was in around leaving Villa, Steve was
Martin O'Neill at Celtic,
and at Leicester. Martin O'Neill was at Leicester, when he's big period. He was training with Martin to go be a player coach in America at the team I went to. Essentially, I was leaving Villa. He was going there. He was like, would you fancy going? I came here and I was like, no, I'm never playing football again. And I woke up one morning. Literally, it was not even an epiphany. I just woke up and I was just like, what am I doing? Just go and give it a shot. And I went to America and came back after a week. It was like, I'm never going back. It was weird. I was like, I loved it. He played on these like Friday night lights, this like little small high school pitch, and all. It was deadly. But I was like, that's too fat. My family. I was homesick in England. I'm hardly going to move to America. And I came back here and I didn't really see what I was fading a little bit. I was going to go to college for art, but I was like, what am I going to do? I didn't really have, it wasn't as driving me as much as football was. And I knew I was 19. I still had a lot to give in football. Literally woke up one morning and was like, I'm going. Simple as that. If it doesn't work for 6 months, and I stayed there for 10 years, pretty much 10 years, But it started off, I went to a team called Rochester with Steve, and then Steve, we went to Colorado together then, Rochester, Boston, upstate New York, close, So, and then it kind of went over, like Colorado, what an incredible time that was. Like, that was, but America, do you know what the best piece of advice I got in America? It wasn't even actually advice that someone gave to me. I watched it on one of those Lions documentaries, and your man, I can't remember his name now, but he said people go to these different countries and the first thing they do is find an Irish pub, Irish friends, and Irish culture. It says, nice, to be successful, you got to buy into American culture. And I went over there and it says, right, I'll do everything the Americans do and see if I like it. And I loved the American lifestyle. Loved it. American people are amazing. They're funny. Obviously I'm home now. I love Ireland. The Irish people are my favourite. But I was young. I was impressionable. I just loved everything about it. Yeah, I wanted to stay. And now the lifestyle was incredible.
Was it the opportunity as well to kind of put your stamp on that league as well? Did that come into it?
Not really, Josh, I suppose. No, I wasn't, because not really, mate, now, to be honest with you, because there was people in that, like at that time I was there, Robbie Keane, that were coming over. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. Robbie Keane's a lot bigger footballer than I am, so it was more so just trying to keep a career going. Okay. I never had those. That's one thing now I have differently in art than I did then. Funnily enough, I'd be more confident in artwork than I would be in football. Now I want to make like a bit of a kind of stake in the art world and stuff, and think, right, now I'm here, I want to really produce, show people what I'm good at. Over there, I just think I'll have a career.
And do you think, just from that as well, like just even what you said about art, and we'll definitely go into that because that's an unbelievable story. My son, he's 6 years old, he's told me how unbelievable that is, right? But I always found that obviously boxing is an individual sport, but I always found it easier to deal with because people will let you down a lot in football matches when they're not playing and stuff like that, and I found that easier to deal with. But it makes the highs deadly, but makes the lows awful. Yeah,
of course. I do think, looking back at it, I would love a chance at an individual sport. I would have loved it, because I used to love like playing tennis when we were younger, but you live and die off of how good you are or bad you are. But like you said, it's easy to live with the highs, then those lows crush you, So who knows how you deal with those things? But I'm getting a bit of that in the art world now, There's still a team around the art and stuff. You have all these different editors and a little team around you and stuff. But it is essentially, when someone sees your artwork, you are good or you are bad, or they like it or they don't like it. Now, it can be subjective, but it's pouring your soul, it's showing your soul to someone way more than being on a football pitch. You're playing 11v11, I can hide for 70 minutes and look good, do you know what I mean? You can, essentially. But in this, it's like, no, this is you, and the book stops with you.
So when you were 8, 9, 10, kicking Shane's kind of cup up the street, were you kicking it up the street, and then when it got dark or raining, did you come in and draw it in? Had you an attraction to art from a young age as well? Probably not as much, or not the same love, because obviously being a professional footballer for any young fella is unbelievable, right? But was art something that you loved as well, or was it something that you enjoyed, or what was the story?
Definitely. Like me and Shane, I used to love art. Like we play like video games. Like, remember these games called Star Fox? We try to draw these characters from it, but not for any other reason than we like drawing. Yeah, it was like I could never go into it that deeply. I just remember coming in. If I was knackered playing football, it was lashing rain, I just get a piece of paper, but it wasn't for any other reason than just, I seem to be alright. I'd always copy things like the Beano and the Dandy and all, Be like, I didn't know where I liked it, but I liked it, it's cool.
And were you always good at it, handy enough?
I was decent enough, to be fair. I took to it quite well. I could copy, the simple as, I don't think, there's a certain natural skill to things, but we could get into that, but I don't think anything is really natural. You have to work at everything to make it really good. But I had a natural skill to be able to copy something. I could see things better than people maybe. I think, I can see why that shape looks better.
It was generally someone's homework.
That was Shane up for me.
We don't want to talk about how we got into the guards or how any of that happened. So copying was something I had to go. I was good at it as well.
I wasn't bad at that either, weren't you? But no, art then, it just kind of, in England, I took it up a little bit actually when I was kind of a bit down in the dumps. I just started drawing stuff. I remember drawing a Captain America, and I was like, I like drawing again. And then I couldn't draw on my own good enough, so I always drew this kind of not an immature stuff, but I'll draw kids' books, because that's what I thought kids' books were. Now they're not, but I was like, I'll draw kids' books. And that was always me loose goal for after football. I never had a passion to get into coaching or nothing. Once I was done with football playing, I knew I would have been done with it early on. I realised that. So I was like, I have to figure something else out. Sure. And then I took it seriously about 10 years ago now. Yeah, when I was 24, I was like, right, I came back from the MLS into another team, and I was like, I ain't going to be a millionaire from this. I can't be set up, so I have to figure something out quickly, and then...
But Danny, when you came back, I mean, you won the league, and then you ended up in the White House.
Yeah.
Maybe before you come back and talk about that, tell me about that, because I think
that was amazing. That was
wow.
That's like one of those things you go to America, you take away from how cool is that? Do you know what I mean? Just as a experience, Barack Obama is still the most he's the most charming man I've ever met. It was incredible. Seeing someone like him, you understand how he can kind of control a room and stuff. Like, he looked at his speech, someone gave him for 30 seconds, went out and captivated like a room of 300 people for half an hour, and everyone was like living off his last word. It was incredible seeing someone as charismatic as that. I was like, oh, there's something to be kind of learned from that, you know. But going to the White House, laughing Wicklow, just, do you know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing here? Out in the lawn of the White House, but it was that.
Which was better, winning the league or meeting Barack Obama?
That's a good question, Josh. Yeah, I suppose it's always football, but it's a lovely winning the league's better. But it's always lovely to have those little. That's what I love about America. It's a different thing. You get the ring and stuff. It's not like, that's what I love. Bought into the culture of it. You get the cool ring and you get a medal as well. But you go to the White House. It's that real culture that's different over there. That's a cool thing to do. Yeah. Every sport, when they win, goes to see the president. Do you know what I mean? So it was and I was lucky that it was Obama in office at the time. It was like, it was a cool, people who was really revered, you know, people loved it, you know.
It is, it's mad, because I remember when I won the New England title there, whatever, one of many, either Massachusetts or the New England title, we were dying of a hangover. We went out the night after it. We were dying the following morning, and myself and Spike. Now, Spike is a big enough name in boxing, but it was a big supermarket, and we were down on the lower level, and next thing I have, Basil, Niall Kennedy shouting down to me, and I hadn't a clue what was going on. Next thing, your man runs down the stairs and he comes over to me and he, well done, you won you're a famous boxer. And I'm a famous boxer. I could have crossed the road in Gorey and people wouldn't have known who I was.
That's amazing.
Right? So, an American, they were there and I couldn't believe it. And then he came down and he was on about boxing. I was there, are you sure it's not Spike you're looking for? Like, you know, but Americans, they buy into it and they take over, and it's on like,
and anything Irish they buy into as well. But I'd be like that, like, I want to get your autograph, thinking, am I the only one in the room here? Who you're looking for someone else? But the most Irish thing about that was we went to the White House, and about a month before it we got Obama. I can't remember the name of the suits now, but it was like his custom tailored suits. His team came to measure us to get custom suits for the White House. We showed up, rolling, buzzing as you get there. Custom suit, looks sharp as ant. I put my suit on. It's like Peter Crouch's. I'm thinking, out of all the team, I'm walking around with a suit. I could have slapped Shano in the head with my sleeve. I was like, how Irish is that? I was in the back pulling it up. I can't go on the stage like this. Yeah, that brought me back down there pretty quickly.
So winning the league you played in, so from an American point of view, because you mentioned, like, we know David Beckham was in the league at the time, and Robbie Keane came over at the time.
Yeah.
There's loads of really famous now. They were probably past their best, but they were over. Like David Villa was over there at the time, I'd imagine, and stuff like that.
The biggest one that played, you remember Claudio Lopez? He was the world biggest transfer fee, 45 million. He went from Valencia to Lazio, or the opposite way, and he played with me in Colorado. So seeing him now, he was useless when he came to us. He just didn't care. He was useless, one or the other. But seeing those sort of players, it was just, that's surreal. Those sort of things is amazing. But playing against Beckham,
who was the best player you'd have played with or against?
Funny enough, you wouldn't even know him, Baz. His name's Pablo Mastroeni. He captained America in the 2002 World Cup. Like, I mean,
unbelievable.
Oh my God. That's the one thing about America. These lads are technically, get these South American lads. Pablo is Argentinian. You get these South American lads that come in, and it's like, they don't grow up with football like that. Over here, it's real hustle and bustle. Like Gerrard, right? He's a machine. He can get past you. He can header. He can tackle. But over there, these lads can keep a ball away from you like it's like you are a cat playing with a string. It's unbelievable. And he was just everything I wasn't. He was elegant. He was smooth. Where I was just like running about trying to snap people in half. But he was like unbelievable. The presence he had on the pitch, where like it was one of those things where you kind of can't explain it. It's like when you give him the ball, number one, you know he'll never lose it. So you'll always feel safe. But he had that presence. He was our captain as well. He had that presence where it was like, Pablo's with us, we'll do well today. He was unbelievable. Oh, and just the way he went around, he commanded a change room. I learned a lot from Pablo. I always tell him, when we're chatting, I say, like, I learned a lot from him. He was a good time for me to meet Pablo. Like, it's a real, like I said, impressionable years in my life, more so than football. He taught me a lot. It was amazing. Just a knowledgeable fella. Do you know people when he's coming to a room and everyone just gravitates towards him, and when he talks, people listen. A room full of men, like grown men, professional athletes, and he talks and people are hanging off his last word. Unbelievable fella. Unbelievable.
There is something you find yourself in awe of people. I'm finding myself in awe of you a little bit. No, not being smart, but you're shooting yourself down a massive amount. But like that, even that just shows that you see something outside. You saw obviously an unbelievable footballer, but you saw the man more so than just the footballer. And I think that's
Yeah.
sort of the thing with an ordinary man. It's not like we could have come on and asked you about Joys, about Wicklow Rovers, about what Colorado Rapids was like, right?
Yeah.
Job done, ball burst, hit the
Yeah,
road,
of
right?
course, yeah,
Or we
yeah.
could have came on and just talked to you about your art.
Definitely.
We're trying to figure out how you get there, like, and how you've got to it, and just even like for you to say that man has helped form the person you are now as an adult, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose it's right when you say that. It's one of those things where as you grow older and you meet more people, and I've been fortunate enough to meet like a lot of people, famous or not, right? And like you get when you meet famous people and you see certain people that are great with people and certain people that aren't great with people. I suppose I've kind of learned, I would say it's like a superpower, but not. It's like I've learned this thing now. Like no one has any kind of hold over me, as in if you're famous, if you're gobshite, I have nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter if you've been in A-list movies, or if you've been a professional footballer for 20 years, it doesn't matter. It's humans that you're after, do you know what I mean? You can... And then when you meet someone that's successful and an amazing human, that just makes it even better because you realise those people exist. You know what I mean? So I suppose now, if someone, no matter how famous, if they're an arsehole, I don't, because I don't want it from anybody anyway. So it's like I don't care who you are, what you've done. Do you know what I mean? So you can talk to a normal man, you can talk to an A-list celebrity. If they're sound, they're sound, and I'd always have time for them. If not, and I genuinely mean that. I've had to learn that.
Yeah.
Because you get burnt a lot over when you're younger. You think, people do you wrong, and they kind of look for things from you. But like, now it's literally just, if you're a good human, you're a good human. I genuinely mean it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I talked to me on when the lads interviewed me before they roped me into doing it. But like I talked about when I won and the elation in the dressing room, like, and going to my phone. It took me 3 days to get back to everyone on my phone.
Messages,
right?
of course.
And then when I got smashed up by Babbage, right, on Sky Sports, and go back to my phone, I have a message from my wife and I have a message from my ma.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you know what I mean? My poor old father is on the voice message from my ma because he can't write one.
Of course.
But yeah, so that was it. Like, and you're there, and then your sister maybe will send you one, or your brother, but like that's gone then. Like,
let me ask you a question. I'm posing it to you as a professional as well, Basil. Right? So say you always have that. So like people are there for you when you're down, and that's like the people that you know are there through thick and thin, because that has to be it. That's family and friends that you love and all. But when you got successful, did you also see people fade away because they don't want you to be successful? I know you get the latchers on and you people that want something from you, but I mean people that you're close with your whole life and then kind of fade away because it's successful then.
I'd say the easiest way for me to describe that, and I in my interview I sort of said it a bit as well, but people disappoint you.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So there would have been people that I would have classed as friends, and I think friends is a very loose thing as well, right? So friends, we all have loads of acquaintances, right? And I think when things are going well for you and everyone's telling you you're amazing, you sort of frosted window class on that everyone's your friend. Do you know what I mean? But everyone's not your friend.
Definitely.
And what I found is that I talked to the boys, like when I got bet by Babbage and that fight, that put me I was in a really dark place after that fight for loads of different reasons. But the barman in the pub I used to work in, and the pub that all my friends was drinking, like he had to come out from behind the bar and tell my so-called friends, you should be fucking disgraced, you should be ashamed of yourselves, because they were abusing me that much. Like. Yeah, so I was lucky. Similar to you with Shane and stuff like that, my good friends, I could count on one hand how many good friends I'd have. Do you know what I mean? And they'd be good friends if things were bad, and they'd be good friends if things were good. Do you know what I mean? It didn't change, and I think
to find those people.
And it is. It's really important, and I think it's probably a thing as you grow older. Is something that. So honestly, I'd say easily on one hand that I count them, but I might not see them for 6 months.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
But it'd be like I was talking to them 5 minutes ago. Do you know what I mean? You just pick up. You don't live in each other's pockets, but we just pick up straight away. Like,
as you get older, you realise that's pretty much what a good friend is, really, isn't it? It doesn't have to be every week. Now you have those ones, but more so the lads. Yeah, I'll chat to you every 6 months, and it's like we were chatting yesterday.
Did disappoint me though. Yeah, I won't lie, and when you're down, then that does drive you a little bit lower. But it's a growing up thing, and I'd say. I would imagine the laws in your game are probably far harder than in my game, because it is my laws happened in England. I was straight back here. Like I travelled for a fight. I was home the following Monday. Like, do you know what I mean?
Course.
Like you're stuck in a place when things are going bad. I'd imagine that was hard.
Yeah, it was. Like I did go through like a few kind of hard periods, to be fair. Like I said, I suppose I kind of got through it by, well, football's hard anyway, but I tried to learn really early to be even keel. So say if we won 4-0, I'd wake up next morning and get my ice bath and I'd go to the gym and recover. If we lost 4-0, I'd wake up, get my ice bath, go to the gym. I'm not saying you can't have those kind of feelings of being up and down, but to try to be even keel every day is the best way. It's the best remedy I've had, I suppose, to kind of battle those really highs and really lows. Do you know what I mean?
That's
it's the
obviously
best
a
thing to
skill
do.
that you possess, though. Is that something that's worked for you since you were young, or since?
I kind of realised that it wasn't serving me getting really high and really low. I was like, this isn't good. I suppose when we won something, I never went out in a lash for 2 weeks anyway. So that wasn't what I lived for. I didn't play to go and lash. I always lived to it was always relief playing football for me. So say we played and we won, I never felt, that's why I knew football probably was coming to the end. I always had too much pressure on myself to feel happy. I felt relieved. We won. I'm the captain. I've done my job. Park that next week. So I never gave myself the chance to say, let's let the hair down and go mad. So with that comes pressure. So I just thought, right, with that pressure, I have to figure out how to be even keel and just kind of figure it out the whole time. You know what I mean? High, low, win, lose.
And would you
just
regret that,
keel.
or would you regret not enjoying the highs as much?
Not really, mate. No, because even now, I don't even think about it. Do you know what I mean? I could slave away at a book here for a month or 2 months, and it comes out and it's literally it comes in the door and I think, right, good, on to the next one. I don't. It's not that it's a thing where it's like I can't let myself enjoy it, because I'm really happy with where things are going. But I've got these goals in mind that I want to get to. Maybe when I hit those goals, if I had won the Premiership, that might have been different because that was my goal when I was younger. But I have these goals in comics. If I hit them, maybe it might happen then. But until then, it's just keep on cracking on. Don't let things get lose control until you get there. You know.
Yeah, no, fair play to you. Show massive. You've a massive self-awareness, which is a really strong thing to have from any point of view. I definitely wouldn't have had the level of self-awareness that you had, and just to be able to keep yourself level. Like I was a dope. I'd have floated with the highs, and I would have fucking sank in the lows. Like, do you know what I mean? So, but to keep yourself in that is a brilliant thing to do. Like, do you know, and it's an amazing thing. And that, I suppose, leads us on to what my son. I have a YouTube video or a WhatsApp message, but he thinks you're unbelievable. So I'm not stalking you on Instagram, right? So if you look at it and you've 2,000 views on a page, it's actually MJ on my phone. But he idolises the pictures, like, and he loves the Hulk. And
Brilliant.
Batman now is his god, but
Batman's mine as well.
Venom, for some reason, we're all about Venom this week now as well, but it changes weekly. So, but lead us into that. How did that come about?
Yeah, I always loved comics and all that growing up. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily the way we wouldn't have read them and all, but me and Shane would always been into, like, now you'd call it nerd stuff, right? But like back in the day, it was nerd stuff. Like you'd be going, like you'd have to tell no one you like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't mean nerd as in like a derogatory thing. I just mean like as in what else would you call it? But it's like now, like it's the coolest thing ever. You like Marvel films and someone will stop in a pub and say, "Did you see that one?" Back in the day, it was like, "Did you just say Spider-Man to me? What did you say?" Do you know what I mean? So I always loved it, but I kept it to myself a little bit. And then, yeah, like I said, about 10 years ago, I was like, right, football isn't going to make me, I'd say, a millionaire, as in it's not going to set me up for life, so I have to figure out something else. And that's why I call myself lucky. The 2 careers I've had kind of, it's been hard. I've like sacrificed. When I say sacrifice a lot, I've spent time to dedicate myself to get better at things. You know what I mean? I've missed out on a lot in my life. I'm trying to be better about things, but the luckiest thing is I've found 2 passions. You know what I mean? People go through life and they can't find one passion. So how lucky is it for me that I found 2 passions, but then got to turn them into careers? It's like, I count my blessings every day for that, and that's why I don't take it for granted. So when I was 24, I was like, right, I didn't even know art was a career. I moved to America and walked into this bookshop called Barnes and Noble. There's a big graphic novel section, like you see on my shelves there. And I was like, what's that? I knew comics existed, but didn't know how they existed or what you could do in them. And I picked it out, and I was like, funny enough, I picked it out and I seen a Spider-Man book, and there was an artist named Will Sliney, and he ended up being an Irish artist. And when I came back that year, I messaged him. Small world, my older brother Tomas, his first cousins. One of his best friends' first cousins with Will, got in touch, went down. Will just laid there, says, you can do it. It's a lot of work. You got to get a lot better, but you can do it. And since then, it's been the sole focus of my life, pretty much while playing football as well. Like I played football, came home, to my desk at 2 o'clock, drew until 11, woke up, played football 2 to 11 till I retired. And I was lucky enough, Shane, I was now me in between time, where I was down here trying to make ends meet, a little bit like even working in the gym with my sister. She took me on the gym, and anytime I wasn't at the gym, I was here, not making money with art, but trying to get better and trying to just kind of perfect, like you said, you can't get perfection, but perfect my craft to get better and better and better. And along those years, kind of everybody in my family, sometimes hey, go work in animation, get a job, and sometimes I know. It's always something I said to them, even my fiance says, until it happens, no one's going to understand what I'm doing, like as in like the path that is laid out. And now they've got me jobs at Marvel and DC, people say, oh, that's why you were doing that. You weren't just drawing pictures for money, you were trying to work on something. And it's only when something clicks into place and you can understand, people think, okay. And then going to New York Comic Con this year, it was like a big thing where people were like, now I get it. Do you know what I mean? It's a big one. So yeah, just kind of from there, from 24, I just kind of realised, right, I want to really, really push on to make it. Didn't know I was 10 years away from it. I thought it was a bit closer than that.
I know, but yeah. It's like, I just think the jump is massive as well, like to go from that to that. Yeah. But I think the same level human being that you are, like that. So you could have settled, right? You could have said, I'll do it for that magazine, or I'll do it for this, right? Or I'll do animation. But you didn't. That shows, like, so I suppose one of the main reasons or the questions that we have, everybody has their why, right? And you've had 2 whys, like, and I'm sure, come here, you've had 2 whys up to now. You're probably going to, that'll happen again. You could change it again and say another why. And like, so you'll be familiar with the high performance mentality. Fergus was familiar with the high performance mentality. You work with the high performance mentality every day, bar Shane. Just for
the record, none of this podcast would happen without Shane producing it. So.
I'm going to cut all that.
He's the editor, Basil. Like,
he's the editor. Yeah,
he's got a hammer.
I have nothing in my diary about any day. But like the striving is unbelievable, and like for a young person, and I'm saying young, but for any person that's looking to reinvent themselves, like, and I know you're very conscious, and you definitely want to take this, like, but your journey of reinvention, your journey of strength and power to keep striving, like, my whole thing is, like, it doesn't necessarily, like, I remember with Pascal, even with boxing, like, my aim when I turned pro was to win my first fight, right? Then my aim was to go 5 fights unbeaten. Then my aim was to win a title. Then my aim was to get into the top 20 in the world. Right? Well, first aim was top 100. That happened. Now top 20 never happened. But I got the top 30. So not too bad. But you have these little things. But I think for anyone looking for it, like, even down to the setup, like, of the 4 of us in this room, 4 from 4 completely different backgrounds. Like, do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And we're all here and we're all talking about the one thing that we want to help people, like, on dark days, because we're all going to have shit days. You know what I mean? But we've survived every one of our shit days, like, and I think that's a really important thing for everybody to take. But for your strength and the power to keep striving, and to reinvent yourself, that's quite admirable. It's unbelievable.
I appreciate that, Basil. I suppose you say everyone has dark days. Like, even now, like you said, two dream jobs I've had, but Jesus, I've had not more dark days than good. But like you said, it's your why. Like, you think, you're gonna have dark days. It's gonna be hard to go to bed at 5:30 because it's fucking freezing. You got to get to work, and you're working 18-hour days. But why are you doing it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do you want to do it? And I know why I want to do it. Do you know what I mean? So that's where you find a passion to latch onto it, and you think, never stray away from that. I always think, like, don't be kind of sidetracked by some, maybe not glitz and glamour, I'm not saying that, but like, that's a shiny thing over there. I think, no, why are you on this path, and can you stay on this path? Do you know what I mean? And things will come in and get in your way, and you get distractions, and life happens. Do you know what I mean? But you have a path. Like you said, if you achieve that goal, then your path might be different. You have to change this up to something else, but can you be just as focused on that? Do you know what I mean? That's one thing where it's like just focus and discipline. The biggest thing for me is I never achieved what I wanted to do in football. Nowhere close to it. And now I'm actually probably better at art than I was at football. And I am. I'll say it confidently, I am better at art than I was at football. and have a better chance at making a way better career at art than I did at football. So I'm not going to give that up. There was things in football where I think I could have done this better, that better. Now it's like I'm going to capitalise massively on the art now because I've been lucky enough to be given the chance, although I've worked for it. Now it's like, now I know what I'm going to do to crack on, and football taught me so much going into this career as well, you know.
I think that shows the strength of you as a person, though, to self-analyse yourself and see if that didn't work, well, I'm not going to let that fuck me up this time. I'm going to learn from that lesson.
Exactly.
And drive on to this.
Exactly.
And you've reinvented yourself to, like, they wouldn't be even on the table if MJ was here. 1,000,000,000% out the gap. But like to that level of,
yeah, I'm just in awe of what you're creating, and
thanks, Josh.
like MJ, I'm kind of racking up some of the views as well on the Instagram.
I love it.
And congrats on the followers, and but like I was kind of thinking that I suppose you talk about kind of advice, practical advice, because this is part of the podcast as well, giving practical advice to the listeners, which I think you've done throughout this conversation. So thank you for that. Like, what does people think, I suppose, like overnight success, but it's not, because you've been hard at it. You've been years crafting and committed to the goal. But paint a picture of what's coming. Where would you like to be in 3-5 years, or do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I have actually. I have all these sayings kind of started about me office and all that, and I kind of live by those things a little bit. But one of the big ones I learned early on was legacy over likes, right? So I taught me the followers, and that's amazing. But even that sort of thing, when I said to like my fiance, my family, me being successful in comics, a byproduct of that will be getting followers online, right? But Instagram tomorrow could be gone. I could wake up my phone and the app could be deleted, and I don't know where it's gone. But Instagram just said, we're not a company anymore, right? So you have to build a solid foundation in your work. So you have to put stuff on the shelf that people can actually see. Do you know what I mean? Because I could quit now and just do like kind of commissions and that's daily, but it's fleeting. There's no soul in it. If you can build a body of work that people can kind of look at and think, oh yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? But the legacy of a likes thing is understand what you're doing and why you're doing it for. If no one looked at my art the day I died, I'd still draw. Because the thing is with football, it's like, yeah, you want to perform in front of people, but as an artist, it's like, I want to drain my soul dry to make myself the best artist I can. And that's whether someone looks at it or not. Because if I come down, there's nothing that's better feeling when you get in that kind of zone and you start drawing, you're skillful enough to where you've learned to get better.
Sure.
You think, I can do this now. And it feels easy, although it's had 15 years of work behind me. It feels, if someone looked at me now, that I'm a natural artist. That's kind of what drives you a little bit, whereas you just want to be the best artist you can be. And a byproduct of my thing is I'm a commercial artist, so people see my work, which is amazing. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's finding that passion. And the biggest thing is for me, like, people kind of think you have to be happy in life. You do have to be happy. It's being relentless. You're going to get those bad days. But if you wake up and have a bad day, what is your goal? My goal is to write and draw Batman. So I have a tangible goal set in front of me that I know the steps that I have to take to get there, right? So one bad day is not going to put me off track. But I think you have to find that goal, because if you don't, you're a bit of a kind of feather in the wind. You're just kind of floating about. Because you think, I might like that, I might do this, I feel good today, I feel bad today. But if you have that goal, you can always set yourself back on those tracks and keep going. Do you know what I mean?
So what success might be.
To you, success to you might be having one comic at Marvel.
Yeah.
And that's it. You've done it, and that's amazing. But what's the goal to get there? I know that people have more. You know what I mean? Money's never been a driver for me either. Obviously, a commercial artist, that's big. But I think at the start, if you can figure out something that you're not trying to just get money from, because those days will hit a lot harder when they're bad, because you think, fuck man, this is crap and I'm not making money.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? You can find a passion in something. Money, if you're successful, it will be a byproduct of that. I think anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's where sort of social media is skewing. Like you in NBK survival training, you talking with students, and like social media, as we talked to, you referenced earlier on, Danny, but this generation's all on phones. We didn't necessarily have that exposure. And then people on social media only posting the best parts of their life, and it's quite sort of fake, really, in a way.
Yeah,
and so it's interesting to hear your input and feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, like even Shane would say, we come in, like, say, I think I got 30,000 followers this morning, right? Literally 8 weeks ago, I had 3,000 followers, but I'd still worked for 10 months with Marvel and DC. Yeah. That's what the goal for me was, to work for Marvel and DC. So like I said, the byproduct is followers, but that doesn't matter. That's fleeting.
Yeah.
People can make business on followers, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying not to do it, but shouldn't be your sole focus to have followers. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm fascinated by Da Vinci, right? It's one of those things about an artist. People, he's obviously, but like in his day, he used everything as a tool. If Da Vinci was alive today, he would be on social media, but it would be a tool. He'd use it to better his artistic journey, I suppose. You know what I mean? If you can kind of separate that and differentiate it. My social media now, me Instagram, I do like kind of little tutorials and stuff, and people, that's kind of and that's kind of like what people like to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm getting likes on pictures I put up 2 years ago, and they're kind of getting big now. But like, it's the behind the scenes, and I learn from artists by showing me things. So I'm thinking, oh, now can I kind of? It's not a conscious decision massively. I just like seeing process videos, and I like actually doing them, and people like seeing them. So it's a bit of it's a cool way for me to show people, hey, look, this is how it can be done. I don't kind of. People in art are a little bit like, what would you say? I'm trying to think of the word. They kind of keep things to themselves, to be scared of giving information. It's like, oh no, if you learn things, you'll get better than me. Do you know what I mean? But I read a Pep Guardiola book years ago. He let the curtain down behind Bayern Munich for a year, and the reporter in the last few chapters was like, you've let everyone know your secrets. Why do you do it? He says, because 99.9% of people won't do the work anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're trying to do this, but if you can give information to people, don't be afraid that they'll outdo you, because you have to have it in yourself that you'll be working anyway and you'll be good enough to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the freedom to give information is actually a nice thing for people, I think. And that's how I learned. I'm self-taught, but I wouldn't be self-taught if I didn't watch videos and people give me information for free, you know?
There's a theme there as well, though, Danny. I mean, you talked about in the Aston Villa dressing room with the reserve team and you know, mentoring and encouraging, and you know, it's a sort of form of that as well.
Yeah, that's
in your
true.
Art world,
That's
and
true,
so
yeah.
you're true to form there, and credit to
Yeah,
you for that.
it's like I remember growing up. I keep this one short, but going to portfolio reviews and Comic Cons, and Jesus, talk about being nervous. Like going on trial to Villa, and that wouldn't even compare to this. You go up with your portfolio, you're essentially showing them your soul. It's like, please don't tear me apart. But then as you get older, I kind of used to say, I don't have an ego attached to art, and I genuinely don't, because I want to get better quicker. And how can you tell me to get better? But that was first few portfolio reviews. But you get the nice artists that are like, listen, they'll give you a little nuggets to say, you're good at this, be better at this. But you can get some people that tear you down, and that's not good to anybody. You're not a young artist coming in to try to get better. If someone says you're terrible, you think, Jesus, all right, you can tell me that in a different way. So when I went to New York Comic Con this year, it was super important for me, like the most important thing. Even I said to my fiance, to it was like for me to, if artists come up to me, to give them something to go away with and say you're close, and I'm not lying, you can do, you're great at this and this, but give them confidence so they walk away from the table. Yeah, they walk up to the table with their shoulders back, not with their shoulders down. You know, it's super important, because it's, you want to see people do better and do well. You know,
Absolutely, giving people a step up. You know.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's it like working with Marvel, DC? What are these kind of?
I can't even think about it, Josh. It's one of those things when I got to see me Batman cover this year, and Batman is like, he's my favourite character, and I'm working for Marvel a lot these days. I have amazing Marvel characters. Batman's what I grew up on. Like, he is like everything I've dreamt of. So when I got that call through that cover, it was like, I couldn't even think about it genuinely. He was like, I need to just get this done like it's a normal character. And it ended up being kind of probably one of the better things I've done last year. But if I had a thought about it, I would have just froze in place. So literally that's been my way this whole year. It's just like, right, you get to work in this, like I've done Darth Vader, Punisher, the Incredible Hulk. It's like, Jesus, these characters. But Superman, if you think about like the legacy of Superman, what he's left, it's like, if I thought about that, I wouldn't even pick up my pencil with the artist that have worked on him. So I have to do my best to compartmentalise what I feel about him and put my take on the character, and not worry too much about what's gone in the past. And I've been doing all right at that. I've been doing well at that, to be fair. But to work with those, like, to say you work for Marvel, it's like, it's all I've ever dreamed about since I stopped playing football. And I don't have, everyone has imposter syndrome to an extent, you know what I mean? But in football I had that a lot more. Now it's like, no, I want to work here, I should work here, and I really and I kind of, I'm not taking it for granted. I'm giving it me everything I have every single day to keep working there. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if, this is deadly, it's great. It's like, no, I want to stay in here.
If when you and Shane were growing up then, right? Shane's really good editor, by the way, right? I just want to say, he's editor of the podcast.
He's trying to come back around now, Shane. He's trying to come back around now.
He's a fantastic human being, right? Genuinely, he's the best man to plan and schedule stuff I've ever seen.
What are you looking for, Raz? Are you looking for something, Shane?
But which one? Who was Batman and who was Robin?
Let him answer that.
Who was Batman and who was Robin?
Let's just say I was a centre mid, he was a right back. We'll say it that way instead, right?
No, but on a serious note, like, right, so in my I'm brain dead, right? So I had to retire from boxing because of that. But I do have to jot down a few things, and we're going to go into a massively important question next. I don't think in the tone of the podcast, it's purely because your journey is fascinating, and I have no doubt in the world that your journey will evolve so much more, even, like, you know what I mean? But I wrote down 2 words here, right? And you're going to 1,000,000% deny both of these, right? But I brought down passion,
Right. Yeah.
because everything you've talked about, you just have the most unbelievable
Absolutely.
passion. Like, it's your passion for football. I would love MJ to box. I'd love him to play hurling and football. I'd love him to play soccer, right? Unfortunately, he's 6, right? So I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm not gonna force him, right? But he's not gravitating towards it. Like, do you know what I mean? So that passion's not there. That's all I ever wanted was sport, right? But it doesn't seem so. Whatever way he goes, I think passion is, like, if we all close our eyes here now and talk about passion, it's the most beautiful picture you can picture in your head, like, right? It's deadly. And you had that so much about football, right? And to be able to transfer that then. The only other thing I will say now, this is a compliment for your fiance, right?
Right.
Your eyes absolutely burst open when you talk about her, which is a really nice thing as well, right? So it's a deadly thing. So, but the 3 things, like, you talk about more than that, your family, how passionate you are about the road they put you on and the support they've given you, right? Football, unbelievable, the passion you've shown, right?
Yeah.
Then to jump into, obviously, Emma, your partner, and now the passion you talk about in drawing and in working with Marvel comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But your passion, even though it's so personal, right, it just feels like you're willing to pass every bit of it to people so they could be happy as well. Do you know what I mean? And that for me is unreal. Like, so I've actually wrote down my second word. Don't check the spelling, right? But I've wrote down legacy. Like, I can't, when I leave, I'd never met you before in my life, right? I leave here today, like, I'm of no doubt in the world that you're leaving a legacy behind, and I don't think you're aware of that. Just in relation to you, fuck in relation to football, fuck in relation to drawing. Just I'm delighted. I genuinely am. I'm delighted to have met you, because you just seem so willing to pass it on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And help. And let someone else maybe see through those rose-tinted glasses for a while. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Like I said, it's hard for me to take compliments, but passionate, now, I'd take that, because there's one thing, like, I love passion. Like, I remember I was in America one time, real quick story, and an Uber driver picked me up, right? And the car was spotless. Oh my God, it was spotless. Not a piece of dirt, and he had a t-shirt on, Uber, his initials under it. And he's telling me about his car, he got this, he wanted it, and he was the most passionate man I've ever met. I says, why are you so passionate? He goes, I'm driving, man. He had, like, some other job he didn't like before. The most passionate man I've ever seen. He's driving an Uber. That's a profession different. Like, you could meet anyone, any profession. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but saying, I just think, I fucking love it. I get out with that car and I was thinking, I felt upbeat. I was like, he's after dropping me to my destination and couldn't be happy with his job. Fucking love that. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have to be the president of America to be passionate. You can be passionate about anything. And that's one thing I try to, every day I wake up, definitely passion is, like, if I ever lost that, I'd be gutted, to be fair. But I appreciate you saying about me fiancé and that as well. That's massive. Like, I met her at a time in my life when I was mature enough to show her, to not give a shit when anyone else thought, and that was it. That was a passionate relationship we get into, and it still is now. But everything in life, Baz, it's one of those things. I wouldn't be anywhere I am today without people being willing to give me information for free. So for me to see a young kid coming up, I don't think he wants to take my job. I'm confident that I will always outwork anybody. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a competitive field. You can't be silly either. But to not give someone information because you're afraid of that, that's a fool's errand. I think that's madness. I would never be where I am today without people giving me passionate advice and information on that, So I'd be always willing to pass that on.
Like, our hope or our goal is to help people with this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And your story, and I hate the word, and I'm going to say the word that I hate again, resilience, right?
Right.
I think it's a bullshit word, right? Because we're all resilient. We've all survived every day, that bad day we've had.
Of course.
But having the faith to believe in yourself, you've had fucking horrendous downs.
Yeah.
But you still believe in yourself, and you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you go again. Yeah,
definitely. I think, like I said, to pass on information to kids, if they find something they're passionate in, it's life's hard. It'll beat you down. Like, it always find a way to beat you down. Do you know what I mean? But you can always get on top of that. But if you find something you're passionate about, don't let it go. Like, do not let it go. I don't care if you're playing football, climbing mountains, drawing, writing, hang on to that until it's ripped away from you for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, just chase that with everything you have. And it's one of those things as well when you're kids and you have friends and all, and they're kind of, you always get bantered by your mate if you like something, you know what I mean? But be strong enough. Of course, you have to go with a little bit, but be strong enough to understand what you love and, like, go get it. Because if you can achieve anything nowadays, and I mean, I'm not one of those highfalutin, I can do anything, but you genuinely can't. I can't play in the NBA, right? That's just that's a fact. I can't do that. But if something that's tangible,
taller, is that right?
but with something that's tangible, you can achieve anything, and a lot of that is passion. Just wake up every day.
It comes down to the high performance mentality again, though. A goal, a dream without a plan is a dream.
Yeah,
that's
true.
But you have to put, for a goal, you have to put a plan in place. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, of course.
And you've put plans in place, and
that's it.
Come here, you were after talking about spending 18 hours here a day. It's lovely now. We're in the light. We're all here. We're having a bit of crack. There's 4 of us in here, and it's warmer because of the 4 of us. So you're out here freezing your bollocks off trying to show Marvel half the time. Like.
Yeah, that's.
So I mean, so that's.
That, if I could leave it on one last thing then to kind of say, the big thing I kind of live by, I suppose, is don't let your action be dictated by your mood. So I tell kids that I had a talk down in the CCM, not CCM, Educate Together. My brother-in-law is a principal down there. He asked me to talk to the kids and about kind of them kind of being on a path and stuff. And you wake up every day, right? Motivation's fleeting. I hate it because you watch a video, right, of Rocky and Clubber Lang, and for 5 minutes you're like, that's unbelievable. 5 minutes into a run, you want to give up. So motivation's fleeting, inspiration's fleeting. Discipline is the biggest thing of all time. Right? You got to chain yourself to a desk if you have to do it. Discipline is massive. And by doing that, if you don't let your action be dictated by your mood, you will sit at the desk. Because sooner, a half an hour by the time you're into that desk, you'll want to be there. But if you let your mood be dictated to, you think, I won't do it, I'll go in half an hour. Just sit down and do it, and you'll eventually come over it. I mean, we're natural procrastinators, human beings anyway. Do you know what I mean? But if you can battle that every day, but set in place the plans to do it, you'll take over the world. You'll do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
To say that, and I'm a weirdo for motivational videos, but success is 1% motivation, 99% discipline. Like, and that's a fact.
Exactly.
You are what you do, and you continuously do. So.
You know from yourself, exactly.
Yeah, and I always found diaries. I thought training diaries were the best thing of all time for myself.
Yeah.
Danny, look, I mean, I just wanted to thank you again. It's been so inspiring just sitting here and listening to you and the learnings and the journey you've been on. And I mean, I think we could probably stay here for another 2 hours, but I'm conscious that you've got a workload and so on to get back
Unless
to.
Unless the 2 years control, lads.
Sure, I'll have a go, but really it's just to say thank you for being this episode's No Ordinary Man. And
I can dribble at you, just to make that sure I can dribble.
I love it.
But gent, absolute gent, and thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me on. As genuinely was, I do anything for Shane anyway, but when he sent me what you were doing and what you were trying to do, I was on board 100%. So thanks for your time, lads. I appreciate it. Thanks a million.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Cheers,
Danny.
Cheers, Josh.
Thanks, man.
Top man.
Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.